I am Chaitanya Shinde, roll number 2501531. India's energy story has always had a backbone, and that backbone is coal. But the story is now changing. As India moves towards clean energy, the real question is not just how fast we transition, but who gets left behind when we do. And that's where the idea of just transition comes in. To get a sense of the scale, India today produces over 1 billion tons of coal. It reflects a steady increase over the last decade, not a decline. And nearly three-fourths of our electricity still comes from the coal, which means most of the India's energy needs today are still tied to it. So even as renewables grow, coal is not being replaced. It is still expanding alongside them. Now, if you look at where this is heading, renewables are expected to scale up to 500 gigawatt by 2030, which is a massive expansion in capacity. But at the same time, projections suggest coal will still make up around 60% of the electricity by 2030. So the shift we are seeing is not a sharp transition, it's a gradual rebalancing where coal's share falls, but its absolute use remains significant because the demand itself is rising, which is where the real issue comes in. A just transition means we shift the energy system without concentrating the economic costs on specific groups. Because this transition doesn't just affect emissions, it reshapes who earns, where the growth happens, and which regions lose out. This becomes clearer when you look at livelihoods. Around 1 crore people are linked to the coal economy. But what matters is how that number is distributed. Only a small share is of formal employees. A much larger share is of contract workers and informal livelihoods, which means their income is directly tied to ongoing mining activity, not long term employment contracts. So, when coal activity slows down, there is no gradual adjustment. Income drops immediately. And this is where the transition becomes counterintuitive. If you look at the job intensity, renewables create 2 to 3 jobs per megawatt compared to about zero point 0.5 to 1 in coal. So, at an aggregate level, renewables generate more employment. But the difference lies in when and where these jobs exist. Coal jobs are continuous and location specific, often lasting decades. Renewable jobs are front loaded during construction and then reduce sharply during operations. So, even if total employment increases, disruption happens due to the timing, location, and stability of job creation. And this disruption is geographically concentrated. States like Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh, and Odisha hold about 70% of India's coal reserves. This concentration means coal revenues through royalties and district funds are deeply embedded in these state economies. So, when coal declines, it's not just workers who are affected. State finances and local development spending are also impacted. And the effects extend beyond income flows. Coal mining supports state revenues, which in turn fund welfare and infrastructure. But when mines close, we are often left with land that is degraded and underutilized. So the transition creates a dual challenge: declining revenue streams on one side and non productive assets on the other. There are some early attempts to address this. For example, converting closed mining areas into solar parks, which allows existing land and infrastructure to be reused. But if you step back, a larger pattern becomes visible. A significant share of renewable capacity is being developed in states like Rajasthan and Gujarat, which are not coal dependent. So, while new opportunities are being created, they are not emerging in the same regions that are losing coal, which is why this transition cannot be treated as just an energy problem. It requires coordinated action across labor market, regional economies, state finances, and land use. Because in the end, India's energy transition will not be judged by how much renewable capacity we build, but by whether the regions that powered our past are able to participate in the future.